UFC Vegas 43, aka UFC Fight Night. We have Ketlen Vieira taking on Miesha Tate. Welcome to our prelim card prediction video by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by the name of Zan. I go by the name of Harris. And as usual, we're giving you our fight-by-fight breakdown, fight-by-fight analysis, specifically from the betting perspective, here to let you know which fights are worth the value, which fights you want to stay away from, which underdog has the best shot at winning. And sticking around to the end of the video, you get a little bit of parlay action as well. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the thumbs up. And we want to hear from you in the comments. But we will talk a little bit more about that towards the end of the video. For this card, UFC Fight Night, UFC Vegas 43, we have 12 fights in total. We have 7 fights on the prelim. We have 5 fights on the main card. Of course, this is the prelim card prediction video. So we're going to go ahead and get started with fight number 1 of our prelims. And on fight number 1, we have Luana Pinheiro taking on Sam Hughes. I'm going to start this breakdown here. Luana Pinheiro, she beat Randa Marcos in back in May. She's on a 7-fight win streak. That win was due to Randa Marcos throwing an illegal up kick, if you remember that fight. Still a pretty good young prospect, a lot of in and out movement on the feet, a lot of fakes, a lot of feints. She does have good power on the feet. She's pretty explosive as well. 2 knockouts, 5 submissions. So she does have a pretty high finish rate, 7 finishes in her 9 wins. A lot of those submission wins were in situations where she hurt her opponent on the feet or on the ground, leading to the submission. So definitely want to double down on the power that she does possess on the feet. Good inside leg kick, good movement. Also has a judo background. Pretty strong clinch against the cage. She does add that layer to her game as well. Sam Hughes is on a 2-fight losing streak at this point. We see her record there at 5 wins, 3 losses. She lost to Loma Lookboonmee back in May. We're going to talk about Loma a little bit later. A pretty solid overall fighter. She can clinch. She does have that amateur kickboxing experience. She does like to control center. Pretty good overall stand-up from her as well. Just a decent overall fighter in Sam Hughes. But I'll keep it short. I like Pinheiro here. I think her judo is going to open up some takedown ability for her when she wants. We saw Loma Lookboonmee able to land those kind of trip judo-esque related takedowns on Sam Hughes. So I can definitely see Luana Pinheiro using that as a game plan if she wants to. And if she wants to keep it standing, I think Luana's stand-up is a little bit better as well. Sam Hughes has a bit more of a hesitant style of stand-up. And I think Luana Pinheiro will be able to take advantage of that. We see her here as a big favorite for a reason at -400. I'll be honest, I still think that's a little too steep. Can't really trust either of these women yet. But in terms of making a pick for the channel, I'm all the way on Luana Pinheiro in this one.
Yeah, that's a good breakdown here. We got a good fight here. Sam Hughes is going to be the bigger fighter. We know she's going to want to tie up Pinheiro against the cage. She has that pressure, so she's going to want to hold her against the cage, try to get this to the mat. But we know Pinheiro has that judo, and if Sam Hughes wants to clinch with her, Pinheiro can easily go to that judo and get a better position, obviously. So obviously in the clinch, I give Pinheiro the advantage, and that's actually the spot that Hughes is likely the best in. And when you look at Pinheiro, she had a really good showing against Randa Marcos. She was actually dominating that fight. However, I'm a bit concerned as a viewer. It looked like she was she got kicked in the face on the ground, but she was not able to continue. And it seemed like she milked it a bit. I'm not sure if her cardio was breaking down or something was going on inside that she's not saying to people. But again, she was dominating that fight. Randa Marcos is a legit fighter. And when you look at Sam Hughes, whenever she stepped up competition, she got an L. So I think this is a step up for Sam Hughes. I'm going to go Luana Pinheiro. I'm a little hesitant here to say a lock because, again, the way I don't want to say she quit in that fight versus Randa Marcos. She was winning the fight, but it looked like she kind of milked that and just got her check and went home. So I'm not sure where she's at as far as in her head, but I think Luana's a better striker. She's going to have that judo here to kind of offset a lot of the grappling from Sam Hughes. So I think this is Luana's fight. I think the UFC is setting her up to get a win here.
Moving on to fight number 2, we have Shayilan Nuerdanbieke taking on Sean Soriano. Very difficult name to pronounce. For Shayilan, he lost his debut to Joshua Kulabau in May. A lot of fighters that fought last in May on this fight card. Little fun fact, but either way, his style on the feet caters that of a wrestler. Pretty wide base, primarily hands, a lot of level changes, a lot of feints as well. He is going to look to clinch against the cage. He's going to attempt takedowns, especially after his punching flurries. Pretty decent takedown attempts. He does have some chain wrestling to him as well. He's going to diversify his takedown attempts as well. So he's going to look for the body locks. He's going to look for the trips. Really stays committed to that takedown game. He might land it the second or third time if his opponent gets back up. So that's something his opponent is going to have to be really actively concerned about. His style, of course, with that heavy wrestling will create some cardio issues. It is a high effort style. He definitely slows down after the first round. And I mean, of course, the takedowns aren't going to be as abundant or as effective as the fight goes down, or as the fight goes on, I should say, but definitely a wrestler first type of fighter. And he shows it 100% in his style. For Sean Soriano, he lost to Christos Giagos back in May. Looks pretty controlled in the stand-up, has a Muay Thai type of style, solid Thai kicks, solid Thai combinations with punches and kicks, quick explosive hands. He has the speed, the accuracy, and the pop on both his punches and his kicks. So definitely going to be more of a striker versus wrestler type of matchup. Now for Soriano, 53% takedown defense. That's going to be a key factor in this fight. He's shown in the past that he can be taken down. He did show some ability to sprawl and avoid the takedown in his last fight versus Christos Giagos, but he was taken down more than once. And ultimately he was finished on the ground. So that is a legitimate concern that I have for Sean Soriano here. We see him here as a big favorite at minus 270. I do think that is a little bit of a trap. I would not trust that at all. Of course, we know Soriano is the better striker, but that disadvantage on the ground is pretty wide. At these odds, like I said, I can't side with Soriano. Although Shayilan, his cardio is definitely a concern in terms of 3 rounds of effective wrestling. I do think that he can show at least a round and a half of wrestling. That might be enough for him to pull it out. Maybe one judge or maybe 2 judges or maybe all 3 judges kind of go in his favor as a result of that. But what I'm getting at here is, this is essentially a 50-50 fight for me because it is a clash of styles and because Soriano doesn't have the greatest takedown defense. For Shayilan, to be such a big underdog in a fight that I feel is 50-50 in 2 clashing styles, you almost have to go betting logic on this one. I am going to go with the underdog simply because I think it's a 50-50 fight. I wouldn't call this a confident pick, but I guess the message here is I wouldn't bet on Sean Soriano at minus 270 against a wrestler. So making the pick for the channel, I am actually going to go with the underdog, Shayilan Nuerdanbieke. He's going to be my pick. He's at plus 220. I'm going with the underdog.
Yeah, this is a legit clash of styles here. This is pretty much grappler versus striker. In that fight for Shayilan, last fight versus Kulabau, he had a really good first round. He likely won that round. He utilized a lot of grappling, and he's physically strong. Like, he's strong in that ring. He's a strong fighter, so he's in shape. But again, as you mentioned, his cardio definitely is a factor here. Now, I'm actually going to make my prediction quick here. I just believe that he's going to have that good first round. I think it's going to be similar. And I think Soriano, he came in versus Giagos, but he came in short notice, and that was a weight class above. That was in 155. So now he's back in his division. He was given a proper training camp. And against a good fighter in Giagos, he definitely won that first round. And he tried to stuff the takedown in the second round that would ultimately led to the loss. But Giagos just pretty much chained his wrestling to get that takedown. So I'm not sure that Shayilan has the wrestling Diago has, and he won't be as big as Diago was, which helped him in that fight. So I think Sean Soriano here defends a lot of the wrestling here. Even in the first round, I think Sean Soriano can put his lights out. But I'm gonna go Sean Soriano to win this fight. I just think he's a better fighter. He's been in the UFC before. In that Diago's fight, it looked like he got better. His striking definitely shown improvements. And I think as the fight goes on, the takedowns won't be there. And then the striking is it's just he's on a different level. So I like Sean Soriano here to get this done.
Fight number 3, we have Cody Durden taking on Aori Qileng. Cody Durden, he lost to Jimmy Flick back in December of last year. He was winning that fight, of course, being caught in that triangle choke that ultimately ended it. He's introduced as a striker. He's pretty decent on the feet, picks his shots pretty well, puts the combinations together pretty well, has a decent jab, decent uppercut as well that he uses pretty often, especially as his opponents come in for any kind of level change or any kind of takedown attempt. Solid wrestler as well, pretty solid single leg takedown, good shoots in general, has that chain wrestling to him as well. Has that sort of good 1-2 talent pool combination in terms of the striking with the wrestling. For Qileng Aori, he lost to Jeff Molina back in April. That was a unanimous decision. A lot of similar things to say about him in some ways. He has pretty decent stand-up, seems patient in the stand-up. He's always coming forward. He's, controlling the center of the octagon. Pretty hand-heavy stand-up, so I'm not going to see many kicks out of him. Picks his shots pretty well. Again, he's a pretty sneaky counter puncher in his own right. Has some pop in his hands as well, especially when he is coming forward. And I have seen him use takedowns and submissions in fights as well. Both of these guys have pretty solid skill sets. Aori's striking, I should say, might be slightly better, or at least more dangerous between the two. But I do think Cody Durden's wrestling is better, at least in my eyes. I think he's also going to have a better game plan with using it. Again, I think he just sort of chains the takedowns a little bit better than Aori does. This is a split decision type of matchup here. I think both guys will have moments in the fight. But like I said, I am leaning on the side of Cody Durden. And I think it's going to be because, at least in my opinion, the wrestling is slightly better. He can chain it together a little bit more effectively. I think he's going to sort of game plan to use it a little bit more effectively than Qileng Aori. And like I said, I can't definitively say Qileng Aori's striking is better, although it's more dangerous. But I think I can say Cody Durden's wrestling is better. So in that type of matchup, I am going to side with the person that I feel has maybe the slightly better overall skill set. And I think that person is Cody Durden. We see him here as a slight favorite at -150. I think he's going to get the job done.
Yeah, this is a tough fight. I'm sorry. So Aori definitely might have the better boxing. He probably does have the better boxing. But his striking defense is not there at all. He doesn't move his head at all. But he does keep the center of the cage. He has that pressure. And he could be effective in the striking in this fight. He could knock Cody Durden out. Ultimately, this is a tough fight. But when I break down Qileng Aori and who he's fought a lot of cans. And the guys that he's fought that had decent records, those guys fought cans to get those records. And he's fought Jeff Molina. That's his only legit fighter on his record. And obviously, as a second, third round, especially the third round, showed that this guy wasn't ready for a 3-round fight. And Jeff Molina, who lost the first round, was able to come back and win that fight. I like Cody Durden here. I think the wrestling, I think in the Jimmy Flick fight, he's shown that he was winning that fight, dominating that fight, and then got caught in a jumping triangle or flying triangle. In the Chris Gutierrez fight, I thought he lost, but they called it a draw. They gave him a round. One of the rounds was a 10-8, the first round. So that's high-level competition that he actually squeezed out a draw. And he also fought John Sweeney, who's an up-and-coming fighter, and he won that fight first-round knockout. So in my opinion, this guy's fought the better guys, and I think he's going to be more prepared fight night. He's fighting in his division here, the 125 division. He's going to be able to get the takedowns. He has really good wrestling, and I think the ground game, that's going to be the big thing here. But I wouldn't be surprised if he knocks him out because Aori does not move his head. So I'm going to go with Cody Durden to get the win here.
Fight number 4, we have Terrance McKinney taking on Fares Ziam. Terrance McKinney, he beat Matt Frivola back in June. That was a round 1 TKO. He's now in a 4-fight win streak at this point. He has a 100% finish rate. Of his 11 wins, 5 of them are via KO, TKO. 6 of them are via submission, so definitely not a one-trick pony in any way, shape, or form. We see him there listed as a switch stance fighter. I will say he's more southpaw than anything, but definitely has that ability to switch. Real dangerous hands, dangerous striker in general, good with the hands, good with the kicks. And he's shown me some pretty good wrestling. Showed it in his Dana White Contender Series fight versus Sean Woodson. If you remember that fight, of course, we know Sean Woodson is a pretty legitimate prospect at this point. Terrance McKinney was winning that entire fight before the flying knee came in. I think it was round 2, if I'm not mistaken. So, definitely a talented fighter. And, going up against another talented fighter in Fares Ziam, he beat Luigi Vendramini via majority decision in June. He's on a 2-fight win streak in his own right. He's considered a kickboxer, definitely shows that in his style. Good long jab, good long kicks. His leg kicks hurt. They come in pretty hard. Used to be a K1 champion. So again, it's going to speak to his striking prowess. Good timing on his counter punches, good movement around the ring. He will fight from the outside. Definitely a lot more of a methodical, technical kickboxer rather than a pressuring style of fighter or an overwhelming style of fighter. Good young prospect, like I said, but he is somebody that struggles a little bit with pressure. He can be clipped. We saw that in his last fight, again, against Luigi Vendramini, although he did win that fight. Again, I'll keep the prediction part of it short. I like McKinney in this spot. I think he provides really good value, actually. I'm looking at -120 and thinking that the value could be really good here. I think the match, I think they match each other on the feet, except McKinney has that more pressing style that gives Ziam problems. I think McKinney has the wrestling advantage as well. And I think that combination of the pressure, which gives Ziam problems, plus the wrestling advantage is going to be all that he needs to pull this one out. I'm going with Terrance McKinney. I like the -120 odds a lot. He's going to be my pick.
Yeah, I'll make mine quick. I'm going Terrance McKinney here. I like the fact that he has the wrestling. But when I look at Fares Ziam, he's going to have to knock this guy out, I think, to win this fight. And I don't think he has that power. So I'm going to go McKinney here, utilize wrestling. And I won't be surprised if McKinney knocks him out because McKinney definitely has power. And yeah, he can knock you out ground and pound. He can knock you out on your feet, as he's shown in the Frivola fight. But he has some knockouts in top mount from ground and pound. So he has that power. And I think he's going to get him in a good position here, get him on the ground, utilize wrestling, decision or knockout. But I got Terrance McKinney here to get this one done.
Fight number 5, we have Loma Lookboonmee taking on Lupita, aka Lupi Godinez. For Lookboonmee, she's on a 2-fight winning streak. She beat Sam Hughes back in May. Again, we talked about Sam Hughes earlier on this prelim card. Lookboonmee, purely a striker. She has that Muay Thai background. Kicks are her primary weapon. Really good calf kick, good push kicks. Pretty smooth on the feet in general. In the clinch, she is, a pretty good short range striker. Has those good short range elbows. She's active with the knees. Has a pretty solid Thai clinch as well. Again, speaking to her Muay Thai background. She'll definitely sneak in that trip as well. Again, referencing that Sam Hughes fight. 1.5 takedowns per fight. So she has that additional layer. She's not a one-trick pony from that perspective. And she's kind of hard to take down. 76% takedown defense. That will be very important in this fight. And she's somebody who's had good performances in each of her fights in the UFC. Her wins and even her loss to Angela Hill, she looked pretty good in that fight. I mentioned her takedown defense is going to be very important here. We know Lupita Godinez, firstly, she lost to Luana Carolina. That was just over a month ago. We know that was a fight at flyweight, 125 pounds. We know that Lupi Godinez, that was a short notice fight for her. She only weighed 121.5 in that one, and size was just too much of a factor. Very active. This is now her third fight in about 6 weeks. Pretty good overall fighter. She has good boxing skills, good movement, good in and out, good accuracy on her punches, throws good combinations. But she is somebody where her wrestling is probably her strongest attribute. Good wrestling skills, good takedown defense, again, in her own right. This is a pretty tough matchup because, again, like I said, for Godinez, wrestling is probably her go-to, her bread and butter. Lookboonmee has pretty good takedown defense, like I mentioned. Lookboonmee is pretty hard to take down. But I think that Godinez, just offers a bit more overall in this fight. I think her wrestling will be able to take Lookboonmee down. If I'm not mistaken, I think she was able to take down Luana Carolina once, if I'm not mistaken, in that fight. And that was a fighter who was clearly bigger. So now getting back to her normal strawweight weight class, taking on a fighter that she's actually taller than, which is not something that happens often. I think she's going to sort of use that wrestling that she has, successfully land that takedown. And I think that's going to be the difference in the fight. Lookboonmee, although she's better on the feet, she does sort of taper off a little bit as the fight goes on. And I think those are going to be the moments where round one will be pretty close, probably in Lookboonmee's favor. But round two and round three, I'm liking Godinez in those spots. And I think she can pull out a unanimous decision here.
Yeah, for me, man, I'll be honest. I was going back and forth on this. I'll say straight up, do not take my advice on this fight. I don't really have an idea who's going to win this fight because when I look at Lupita Godinez, she clearly is going to be the bigger fighter, the stronger fighter, and she's going to have a big wrestling advantage. And we know Loma came from the Muay Thai world, high level Muay Thai, but the grappling is not always there. Now in Muay Thai, they do some grappling in Muay Thai. They get the clinches, they get the trips, the throws. That's all part of Muay Thai. If you watch Muay Thai matches, you see these guys throwing their opponents on the ground. And they're good at that. But this is an MMA fight, and Lupita is the more well-rounded fighter here, and she should get this done. But I can't make a decision because when I look at Godinez, she this is what her third fight in a month and a half or a month. Like, is that what it is?
Third fight in 6 weeks.
6 weeks. So I don't like that she keeps cutting this weight, right? So now she's going down to 115. So she's going to be doing a big weight cut on this one versus the last weight cut she did at 125. I don't think she came in at the weight, but now she's going down to 115. So I'm not sure if this is going to be a good thing for Luke because she's going to need that cardio to push that wrestling. So I'm going to go with Loma Lookboonmee. I'm going to go with the underdog. But again, I don't feel comfortable here because I think Lupi's the better fighter, but I think Loma here at this point, she's been in a couple MMA fights. She has to know, or she has to be better at the takedown defense. And she's already pretty good at the takedown defense. So you got to expect that every fight is going to improve even more, working with the team she's with. And we know that when it comes to the striking, she's levels above Godinez. So if this stays striking, Lupi's going to get hurt here. So I'm going to go Loma. I'm going to take the underdog, take a chance. And I'm going to go Loma to get the win.
Fight number 6, we have Rafa Garcia taking on Natan Levy. This one's in the lightweight division. Rafa Garcia, he lost to Chris Grutzmacher back in July. 2-fight losing streak at this point after starting his career 12-0. Decent stand-up. You'll see him pressure and control the center. Keeps his hands up on the feet. Pretty solid striking defense. Decent counter-striking ability. Good fakes, good feints, good level changes, has some pop as well. Very comfortable on the feet, physically strong. He can definitely hold you against the cage, has good shoots. He can definitely attempt that takedown. We see he lands 2.5 of them per fight. 7 of his 12 wins have come by submission. So he's not somebody that's only going to be good on the feet. With Rafa Garcia, cardio is a little bit of a concern, at least based on his last fight with Chris Grutzmacher, and kind of overall a disappointing performance. That was a fight that he was supposed to win, at least in my books, and Chris Grutzmacher just outperformed him. So a little disappointing there. For Natan Levy, he last competed last year in Dana White Contender Series. We see him undefeated at 6-0. Southpaw on the feet, decent striker, has some pop both in his punches and his kicks. He does back up a bit though. It's pretty easy to put the pressure on him. I can see Rafa Garcia doing that. He has solid clinch work. He has good takedowns, good control on the ground. He can find that submission as well. Half of his wins are via submission, so we can definitely look for that. Natan Levy's style is a style that can give Rafa Garcia problems. Garcia does have 100% takedown defense in a very small sample size of 2 UFC fights, but they're not really against wrestlers, whereas Natan Levy is definitely going to push for that takedown. And I mean, even if Garcia defends them early, I think Natan Levy has the gas tank to sort of outlast, if that makes sense, Rafa Garcia's gas tank. And eventually, I think those takedowns will land. I don't think it'll be the prettiest win. I think it'll be a very boring fight. And I'm not even too sure about this, so don't take my advice on this one. But I can see Natan Levy pulling out at least 2 rounds, probably rounds 2 and 3. And I think he can get it done with his wrestling. Rafa Garcia is dangerous on the feet in this matchup. I don't think Natan Levy is that good on the feet. So he can definitely light him up there. But I think Natan Levy's wrestling will work to his advantage, again, in rounds 2, in rounds 3. And I think he'll pull out a potential unanimous decision here.
Yeah, I'll make mine quick, man. I'm going with my boy Natan Levy as well. But again, yeah, Garcia has that style that can give Levy some problems. That forward pressure in that first round is the biggest concern. If he survives that first round, I think this is Natan Levy's fight. But Natan Levy has shown that he can kick. He has some striking. I think it's some taekwondo or some type of karate base, I believe, the way it looks to me. And but he has high level wrestling, high level top game, and he's able to control from the top for the entire round. So we see in the Garcia fight versus Gutzmacher, and Gutzmacher is not a guy that he should have lost to. He should have made it look easy in that fight. And Garcia lost. He got tired. He was susceptible to the body shots. Natan Levy, he's shown me a lot of IQ here that I think he's going to kind of implement a similar strategy in the striking realm. But I actually think he's going to utilize a lot of his grappling and just take this to the mat. He's going to be the bigger guy in the ring, and I think he's going to utilize that top pressure and get a win here. So I'm going to go Natan Levy as well. To get a win, I'm pretty confident he gets it done. But of course, as we know from last week, the Akizi versus forgot his name, but
Alves.
Yes, as we know, one shot can change the day, and Garcia has that style. But I'm going to go Natan Levy here to get the win here, put Israel on the map here.
Final fight of the prelims, fight number 7. We have Pat Sabatini taking on Tucker Lutz. Tucker Lutz beat Kevin Aguilar back in May. That was via unanimous decision. He's on a 12-fight win streak at this point after losing his first professional fight. Good calf kicks, really sharp kicks in general, sneaky good combinations on the feet, good punch IQ, definitely knows what to throw. Good counter striker as a result of that. And he's a pretty strong wrestler. That's actually his background. Good takedowns, good control on top, pretty solid overall fighter in Tucker Lutz. Pat Sabatini is on a 4-fight win streak in his own right. He beat Jamal Emmers back in August. That was a pretty good win. He's a ground game specialist. We know that from him. Great top control. He's a Division I wrestler. Also has a BJJ black belt, so legitimately credentialed and well-versed on the ground. 11 of his 15 professional wins are via submission. Serviceable stand-up. I wouldn't say it's great. Somewhat unorthodox. He will move around the ring. He will fight from the outside. He will throw multiple strikes at a time. Even has some pop. This fight, in my opinion, sees 2 guys that are really good on the ground. I think Sabatini, you just kind of have to give him that credit of maybe being better overall with the ground, with the addition of the grappling that he has. But, sorry, I should say Sabatini's submission attempts are legitimately dangerous. I say it's a good win versus Jamal Emmers, but he was losing quite bad in that fight until he locked in that heel hook and made Emmers tap. I like the underdog here though. I like Tucker Lutz in this fight, and the reason I like him is because his striking to me is a lot cleaner than Pat Sabatini's. His wrestling may just be maybe just as good. I think he'll find a way to stay out of danger of Sabatini's submissions. And I mean, even if Sabatini wins, I do expect Tucker Lutz to be winning the fight up until that point, a la the Jamal Emmers fight. If Sabatini wins, it's going to be via submission, in my opinion. If the fight goes any other way, then I think it's Tucker Lutz's fight. Again, the cleaner stand-up, potentially the matching wrestling to Pat Sabatini's, avoid the submission, and this is going to be Tucker Lutz's fight to win, in my opinion. I see him here as a plus 120 underdog. I like the value there. I maybe put a little bit of side money as a straight up bet on that. But yeah, I'm going the underdog. I'm going Tucker Lutz.
Yeah, that's a good pick, man. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good pick, man. I'm gonna go with Tucker Lutz as well. When you look at strength of schedule, this guy Tucker Lutz has fought legit fighters. He has a win versus Kevin Aguilar, 3-round war. He beat Sherrard Blackledge, and if you look at Sherrard Blackledge's skill set, he's a legit fighter. He can fight anywhere, so that's another good win, even though he's 5-0. Pat Sabatini, though, he has his 3 losses on his record here. Again, as you mentioned in this last fight, he didn't look that good. But he has a loss versus a 5-3 fighter. Again, that was an arm injury. But he has a loss versus Jose Mariscal, 6-3 fighter back in 2018. I just think that Lutz can deal with the wrestling. I think Lutz could be the bigger guy in the ring fight night. I got to see the weigh-in, but he could be the bigger guy. And I think he's a much better striker. And as you've seen in this last fight, those leg kicks he was pushing those leg kicks. And if he pushes those leg kicks here, that's going to negate a lot of the wrestling that Sabatini is going to need to do to win this fight. I think Sabatini needs to get the grappling going. I think Tucker Lutz has more ways to win this fight, and he's shown that he can fight at this level. So I'm going to go Tucker Lutz here. I'm going to take the underdog. I think he should be the favorite. I'm pretty sure he gets this done, but I'm going to go Tucker Lutz here to get the win here.
Let's take it to Vegas at that point, ending off on a sort of underdog note here. So when we take it to Vegas, of course, we want to consider the prelim card, and we want to take a look at underdog picks in general. Which one or which couple of underdogs do you feel has the best shot at winning their respective fight?
Yeah. So underdog wise, I'm gonna go with Loma's an underdog, isn't she?
Yeah, Loma's an underdog plus 130.
Okay, but I feel more comfortable with I'm gonna go with Tucker Lutz to get that done.
Do you want to call for both, or do you want to just mention Tucker Lutz?
I'll keep it Tucker Lutz.
Fair enough. My underdog pick will also be Tucker Lutz to echo that. And in terms of favorite picks, I'll go first on this one. In terms of favorite picks, I'm taking a look at Luana Pinheiro, and I'm also taking a look at Terrance McKinney. Those 2 fights would be a plus 125. $100 will return $225. For our bigger bettors, $250 will return $562. In terms of your favorite picks, where are you taking a look at?
I'm going to go with Terrance McKinney, and I'm also going to roll with Sean Soriano.
Sean Soriano, Terrance McKinney, those 2 would be a plus 152. $100 will return $252. For our bigger bettors, $250 will return $630. So we are going to sign off on that note. As mentioned, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you hit the thumbs up on this video. Hit that notification bell as well, so you know when we come out with our latest videos for the week. And again, participate in the comments. We want to hear from you. How do you feel about our picks? How do you feel about our underdog picks? How do you feel about our favorite picks? Who are your respective underdog picks? And if you let us know your respective parlays in the comments, we'll be more than happy to provide some additional commentary on that. But like I said, officially signing off. Main card video is coming up next. This has been UFC Vegas 43, aka UFC Fight Night, Ketlen Vieira versus Miesha Tate, the prelim card prediction video by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by the name of Zan. I go by the name of Harris. And as usual, let's get this money.
Let's do it.